The Ukrainian Defense Forces attacked the base of the 810th Marine Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces in the Kursk region. The occupiers suffered heavy losses. This was reported by the Russian Z Resource Northern Channel associated with the Russian Army. The incident occurred in the village of Spalnoe, located approximately 5 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. As a result of the strike, according to his data, 7 Russian soldiers became cargo 200. That is, they died. Another 10 were injured. Yesterday we wrote about the lottery. Yesterday, 810th was lucky. Today the drum has finished spinning. Sleeping. Among the dead are conscripts, wrote Z Channel. He is sure that there is a mole in the ranks of the Russian Armed Forces who is leaking the coordinates of military targets to the Ukrainian Armed Forces. It feels like the only one who works consistently and without failures in our direction is the informant who carefully and promptly leaks to the Ukrainians where our people are sitting, noted Severny Kanal. The unit in question is the 810th Separate Guards Marine Brigade of the Black Sea Fleet, considered one of the best trained in the Russian army. Ukraine makes extensive use of reconnaissance and precision targeting capabilities, both through technology and likely through local sources of information. Recently, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrskyi, reported the restoration of Ukrainian troops' positions and the holding of territories in the Kursk and Belgorod regions of Russia. This marked an important step in the context of the current frontline situation. At the meeting of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief's headquarters, attention was focused on the most active directions, namely Pokrovsk, Lyman, Novopavlivka, and northern Slobozhanщина. Over the past day, there were 188 combat engagements, resulting in Russian troop losses exceeding 1,000 personnel. Syrskyi emphasized that Ukrainian forces are actively defending their positions, particularly in the Pokrovsk and Novopavlivka directions, preventing the Russian army from advancing deeper into the territory, as well as trying to stop the enemy from reaching the administrative borders of the Dnipropetrovsk region. The Commander-in-Chief highlighted the importance of holding positions in the border, Kursk and Belgorod regions, noting that Ukrainian forces continue to control the situation, not giving Russian troops any respite. The meeting also discussed the development of drone technologies for protecting rear cities, as well as measures to deter assaults and deep strikes on Russian territory. New interceptor drone crews are being formed, fighter pilot training continues, and the demand for high-tech drones remains high.
A confrontation erupted Thursday between protesters and federal officials carrying out a raid on a Southern California farm, with authorities throwing canisters that sprayed what looked like smoke into the air to disperse the crowd. According to Associated Press, vehicles from Border Patrol and U.S. Customs and Border Protection blocked the road in a largely agricultural area of Camarillo, California, lined with fields and greenhouses. There were military-style vehicles and a helicopter flying overhead. Television images showed dozens of demonstrators gathered on a road between fields where uniformed officers stood in a line across from them. In other images, white and green smoke can be seen as protesters retreat. Other images showed protesters shouting at agents wearing camouflage gear, helmets, and gas masks. It wasn't clear why the authorities threw the canisters or if they released chemicals like tear gas. Glasshouse Farms said on social media that it was visited Thursday by officials for immigration and customs enforcement and fully complied with agent search warrants. The company has a permit to grow cannabis in the Ventura County, and as of last year used half of the space for cannabis while half was dedicated to tomatoes and cucumbers, the Ventura County Star reported. It was not immediately known which agencies participated in the raid. The incident comes as federal immigration enforcement agents have ramped up arrests in Southern California, heading to car washes, farms and Home Depot parking lots to take people into custody while stoking widespread fear among immigrant communities. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he and US President Donald Trump have a common goal that does not involve coercion. President Trump and I have a common goal, I know, achieve the release of our hostages. We want to end Hamas rule in Gaza. They want to make sure that Gaza does not pose a threat to Israel any, said Netanyahu Wednesday while visiting Capitol Hill. And pursuing this common goal, we have a common strategy. Not only do we have a common strategy, we have common tactics. This doesn't involve pressure, doesn't involve coercion, and involves coordination President Trump wants to do, but not at any price. According to Associated Press, Trump met with Netanyahu for the second time in 2 days at the White House on Tuesday evening, but there was no sign of a breakthrough. Netanyahu has vowed to continue the 21-month war until Hamas is destroyed, while the militant group has said it will only release the remaining hostages in return for a lasting ceasefire and an Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. As Israel and Hamas move closer to a ceasefire agreement, Israel says it wants to maintain troops in a southern corridor of the Gaza Strip, a condition that could derail the talks. An Israeli official said an outstanding issue in the negotiations was Israel's desire to keep forces in the territory during a 60-day truce, including in the east-west axis that Israel calls the Morag Corridor. The official spoke on condition of anonymity because they weren't authorized to talk with the media about the negotiations. Keeping a foothold in the Morag Corridor is a key element in Israel's plan to drive hundreds of thousands of Palestinians south toward a narrow swath of land along the border with Egypt.
I completed a second meeting with President Trump. And I want to inform you something that will shock the various reports that come out. President Trump and I have a common goal. I want to achieve the release of our hostages.